On my mom's birthday, she asked me to disappear. What happened next will haunt you forever. The air was electric that day, thick with an unspeakable dread that made my skin crawl. I remember laughing as we sliced the cake, the candles flickering in the dim light like a firefly caught in a moment of panic. But then, my mom dropped a bombshell, her words piercing the joy. "I want you to disappear." Those words hung in the air, heavy and dark. Confusion washed over me, my heart pounding like thunder in my chest. What did she mean? With wide eyes, I glanced around the room, searching for answers in the faces of friends and family. But all I found were stunned expressions. My throat felt tight as the laughter faded into a chilling silence. As I stared at her, my mind raced through a whirlwind of strange occurrences from that day. The locals had been gossiping about strange lights in the woods at dusk, unsettling stories about people vanishing without a trace. An old woman even claimed the townsfolk had seen ghosts dancing beneath the moonlight, taunting anyone who dared to venture close. It felt surreal, like a scene ripped from a horror movie. Yet here I was, trapped in my own personal thriller. Suddenly, there was a rustle outside, a fleeting shadow that made everyone's heads jerk toward the window. The tension twisted in the room, a knot growing tighter around our hearts. It was a fleeting glance, but it sent shivers down my spine. I could feel the eyes of my mother darting towards that window, her expression morphing into something unrecognizable, a mix of fear and anticipation. What was she hiding? What did she know that I didn't? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I turned back to my mom, searching her face for clarity, I was met with a stony silence. Her eyes, usually warm and inviting, looked as if they were hiding secrets darker than the night outside. "You must do this," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Yet it echoed, filling the room with a sense of foreboding. I was drowning in uncertainty. The walls felt like they were closing in around me, each tick of the clock heightening the fear in my chest. What happened next? Would I really take that leap? Would I truly vanish? And what did that even mean? As the shadows lengthened in the fading light, I couldn't help but wonder. Was she trying to protect me or warn me of something lurking just beyond my sight? Just then, a knock on the door shattered the thick tension in the room. We all jumped, hearts racing, wondering who could possibly be visiting at this hour. The moment hung in the air, the doorway to one chilling revelation or another looming just inches away. What awaited us behind that door? The knock came again, louder this time, an insistent drumbeat against the fragile tension in the room. My heart raced, each thud echoing the uncertainty swirling around us like a thick fog. My mom's eyes darted to the door, her body stiffening as if she were bracing for a blow. I could feel the air grow heavy, thick with an anticipation that choked the laughter from earlier like a tightening noose. "Who is it?" someone finally whispered, the curiosity laced with instinctive dread. I knew the answer was likely as terrifying as the question itself. But before anyone could respond, the door rattled, shaking on its hinges as if whatever was outside wanted in with every beat. I could hear my breath in my ears, a desperate rhythm urging me to do something, anything. Yet I felt rooted to the spot. My mother shook her head almost imperceptibly, the slightest movement full of warning. She raised her finger to her lips, an action that imbued the room with a chilling silence. Another knock sent splinters of fear through me. Felt wrong. It felt like an invitation to some unseen horror lurking just beyond the threshold. The knocking grew erratic, pounding furiously as if whoever or whatever was outside would break the door down at any moment. "Maybe we should just ignore it?" I suggested, fumbling with my words. The idea seemed ludicrous in the face of our shared terror. but the thought of confronting whatever was waiting outside filled me with dread. I could see my mom's face pale, her gaze never wavering from the door. "Don't invite it in," she murmured, her eyes wide, reflecting fear mixed with an urgency I couldn't fully grasp. "It's not safe." Then, without warning, the door burst open, slamming against the wall with a crash that echoed like cannon fire through the room. I stumbled back, nearly colliding with a table, my pulse racing. Shadows spilled into the room, enveloping us in their cold embrace, revealing a figure. A stranger. An old man, his face obscured by the dim light and deep lines etched into his sunken cheeks. "Help me," he rasped, a voice barely more than a whisper, as if the weight of his words could bring about some great consequence. The moment felt suspended between disbelief and horror. "Who are you?" my mother demanded, her voice steely yet quivering on the edges. "What do you want?" "It's not safe here," he replied, his eyes darting between us frantically. "They're coming. You have to disappear. You have to." Before he could finish, a howl sliced through the air, primal and filled with agony. It seemed to swell from the depths of the woods, a chilling reminder of the dark tales swirling around that day. My heart pounded, frantic thoughts racing through my mind. What was coming? What did he know? And why did my mother look so stricken? The old man staggered back, eyes wide, terror etched in every line of his face. I could sense it building, a ripple of fear sweeping through everyone present, drawing us into an unseen abyss. What had we encountered? And just as questions began echoing loudly within me, the lights flickered. In that moment, I felt a shift, an unmistakable presence lurking, waiting to pounce from the shadows. "Run!" my mother shouted, urgency breaking through the terror in her voice, her command snapping me from my paralysis. But where would we go? What would we face outside? As I turned toward the door, dread seeped into my very bones. Would we truly vanish into the night along with the horror set loose on this cursed day? What awaited us in the darkness? Just as I crossed the threshold, a shadow darted past, catching my eye. I froze for a split second, heart in my throat, wondering what would be the price of our choice. Would disappearing mean salvation, or the ultimate doom? The air crackled with danger as I stepped beyond the door. What lay in wait outside would unravel everything. The chill of the night air hit me like a slap as I stumbled outside. For an instant, I stood frozen, eyes sweeping the dark landscape. The familiar woods, usually a sanctuary, now loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. Somewhere in the distance, another howl echoed, louder this time, twisting my stomach into knots. "Keep moving," my mother hissed, urgency in her voice cutting through my paralysis. The old man was still behind us, his wild eyes darting toward the treeline as if expecting something to leap out at any moment. He was shaking, an uncomfortable blend of fear and desperation. I grabbed my mama's hand, squeezing it tight, the warmth anchoring me amid the cold. Together, we ran down the worn path that led away from the house, the shadows of the trees stretching out, reaching for us like crooked fingers. I dared a glance back. The door still hung wide open, an ominous portal gaping in the stillness of the night. What if something had followed us? What if the old man was right about the danger stirring just beyond the threshold? "Wait," the old man yelled. He stumbled after us, breathing heavily, desperation etched into his furrowed face. "You don't understand." My mom hesitated for a moment, her instincts tearing at her, the urge to protect us battling against the urgency of escape. "What don't we understand?" she shouted, her voice rippling with both fear and authority. "The woods, they're alive. They'll know you're here." His words came out in a frantic rush. "You can't be seen. If you want to survive, you have to move like shadows." Something broke within me at that moment. I couldn't grasp his warning, but the urgency was undeniable. I had seen too much horror already. Tethering my fate to this man felt like a risk I should not ignore. Another howl sliced through the air, this one far closer. It was a nightmare made flesh, a sound that reverberated deep within me. "Run!" I shouted, dragging my mother further down the path, pulling the old man along with us. We faced an uncertain night, but honestly, anything was better than whatever hunted us in that cursed darkness. We ducked beneath branches, tangling with vines that wanted to gnaw at our flesh. Each rustle felt like a taunt, a warning of whatever was out there, waiting, watching. I could hear my mother's breath quickening, matching my own, panic spreading like wildfire between us. "Where do we go?" I yelled, glancing toward the old man. He was sprinting to keep up, his wrinkled face carved deeper with each terrifying breath. "To the old cabin. It's safe for now," he panted, pointing with a shaky hand toward the deeper woods. My heart sank. A cabin? The stories I'd heard about the woods and what happened near that old place flooded my mind. But even as fear clawed at my heart, a flicker of defiance ignited within me. "Lead the way," I urged. We ran, one foot in front of the other, tearing into the heart of the darkness, where stories shared around campfires turned into reality. The branches whipped at us, the night air thickening with an energy that felt charged, alive. And then I saw at the cabin, a shadowy outline against the night sky, crumbling and alive with secrets. Suddenly the ground shook beneath us, a low growl rumbling from the earth itself, and I was struck by a revelation. We weren't just running from the woods. We were running from something older, something much more sinister. "Get inside," the old man screamed as the shadows surged toward us. Just as we reached the door, a piercing shriek echoed behind us. My heart dropped, the sound gut-wrenching and raw. What had followed us? We slammed the door shut, breaths mingling in the echo of our panic. But silence fell like a heavy blanket around us, too quiet, too still. What had we locked out? Or was something sinister already waiting within those walls? My instinct screamed to turn back, but I was trapped in the web of choices we had made. What dangers lay in the dark corners of the cabin? Would we uncover the truth before it consumed us all? The door rattled violently against its frame, a terrible thud echoing through the cabin. My heart raced in tandem, thrumming like a frantic drum. I turned, my back pressed against the time-worn wood, the warmth of my mother's body radiating beside me. The old man's eyes bulged, like saucers caught in the light of a burning candle. "Stay low and do not make a sound," he whispered urgently, his voice barely above a breath. The silence that followed was heavy, an oppressive weight that threatened to smother us. Outside, the world had shifted. The howls had morphed into something else, grating sounds, scratching against the walls like fingernails on a chalkboard. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. Were we merely intruders in this place? Or had we awakened something far worse? "Mom," I ventured softly, looking up at her. Her face was pale, but she nodded tersely, her eyes darting around the dimly lit room for any sign of danger. That instinct, trained from years of survival, was now our only guide. "I can't just sit here," I whispered, the urge to act clawing at my reason. "We need to figure a way out. We have to wait," she urged, her voice steady despite the tremors in her hands. "We need a plan, not just panic." The old man knelt beside us, peering through a crack in the wooden walls. "If they know you're here," he muttered, looking back at us, fear clouding his gaze, "they'll hunt you." "Then what do we do now?" I pressed, anxiety flaring like a match against darkness. He ran a hand through his matted hair, eyes wide. "Listen closely. The stories they speak of a darkness that feasts on fear. Strength in numbers, conceal yourselves. That's how you survive." Just then, a crash erupted outside. The hollow sound of splintering would mingled with frantic barks and growls. I held my breath, locking eyes with my mom. This was no longer a mere threat. It was a warning that birthed an urgent dread. "What is it?" I choked out, desperate for clarity in the chaos. The cabin wasn't just a shelter. It felt like a trap. Something ancient, something that knows, the old man breathed. "If we don't make it past tonight, if we don't slip through the woods as shadows, this will be our grave." I glanced at my mother again, her lips pressed in a thin line, suppressing fear with hard resolve. But I could see it flicker in her eyes, a worry for both of us. Another roar echoed closer, a primal sound that seemed to vibrate through the wood beneath us. Just outside, under the pale gaze of the moon, dark shapes began to stir. First, massive silhouettes moved like phantoms, gliding then shifting into more visible forms. Wolves? Or was it something more grotesque? Their eyes glowed like dying embers. Should we run? I asked, pleading with my voice to stay steady. The old man shook his head vehemently. No, we sealed ourselves in, but they'll find us if we're too loud. We need to wait until they give up. But as he spoke, doubt filled his voice, and I bit my lip, struggling against the unease swirling in my gut. One of the shadows lunged at the cabin. A thunderous bang rattling the door, and I stumbled back, breath hitching. I can't do this, I blurted, my chest tightening. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air heavy with dread. Calm down, my mother pleaded softly, trying to soothe me. We can't lose hope. Suddenly, I noticed something far in the corner of the cabin. Something glinted in the dim light. A rusted old lantern sat precariously on a table, its glass cracked but still intact. A flicker of hope ignited, just a spark. Could we light that? I asked urgently, the idea blooming. It could create light, they might be afraid of it. Or it could draw them closer, the old man warned, his voice dripping with skepticism. But the spark of hope wouldn't fade. We got to take that chance. Risk or stagnation, there's no other choice. As I moved toward the lantern, a chilling howl shattered the night, echoing ominously, a reminder of the relentless hunt. Would the lantern bring salvation, or would it bind us to our fate? I reached for the lantern, trembling, and paused. Was it truly our answer, or merely a desperate grasp at darkness? The howl echoed again, and I could feel the weight of the woods pressing in, desperate to reclaim their lost secrets. We were running out of time. What lay waiting beyond the door, and would any decision we made lead us to freedom? The lantern felt heavy in my hands, its cold metal sending a chill through me, amplifying the dread that clung to the cabin like a thick fog. I held my breath, pondering the precarious balance between hope and despair. Are you sure about this? My mother asked, her voice trembling under the weight of her concern. I could see the conflict on her face, the fear of what we bore and the desperation to cling to any kind of light. It was in that moment that the door rattled again, more aggressively this time, as if whatever hunted us was becoming impatient. I have to light it, I declared, resolute, the urge to act overpowering any reservations about the risks. We needed a chance. I brushed my thumb against the lanternous glass, desperate to find a way to ignite a flicker. The old man peered out again, his voice a tortured whisper. Hurry, hurry, they're getting closer. The urgency in his eyes sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. Propelling me to act, I glanced around for matches or something to spark the flame. My fingers trembled as I rifled through the jagged remnants of old wood on the tabletop. Then, against the grainy surface, I found it. A small box of matches, its edge worn but intact. A crash echoed again outside, punctuating our stillness. Panic surged within me like a tidal wave, the noise vibrating through the wood like a battle drum. I struck a match, the sulfur igniting with a soft hiss, and held it to the lantern's wick. The flame flickered to life, feeble but stubborn. Fueled by hope, I fumbled to adjust the glass, clutching the lantern tightly while a sense of dread bloomed around us. Would this lantern be a beacon of safety or a signal to the darkness? Just then, another howl pierced the night, this one even closer, shaking the floor beneath us like thunder. I swiveled back toward my companions, and in the dim glow, I saw the old man's face twist into a mask of sheer terror. Put it out, he hissed, eyes wild. What if they come? Just wait. I pleaded, my heart hammering against my ribcage. The illumination spread, casting long, warped shadows around the cabin, giving life to the horror lurking outside. What if it draws them in? My mother whispered, her brow furrowed with dread that I swallowed thickly, desperation clawing at my throat. It's too late to turn back now, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The lantern's glow grew brighter, warmth spreading gradually, attempting to engulf the ice in my veins. Suddenly, The scratching sounds transformed into frantic chaos, a mass of movements, syncopated breaths from outside, as if a pack of wild animals sensed a shift in their world. My skin prickled with fear. The air felt electric, humming with anticipation. Then, I saw them. Dark silhouettes loomed outside the cabin, their eyes glinting like shards of glass in the lantern's light. A massive, hunched figure stood still, a giant, twisted being surrounded by others, their shapes indistinguishable. Just beyond the brief luminosity, pure darkness simmered, waiting, watching. "What do we do now?" I whispered, glancing back as the shadows shifted closer. "Stay quiet. They may not know we're here," the old man urged, yet the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertain control. I could feel the heartbeat of fear echoing between us, binding us tighter than any rope. The howl erupted again, raw and primal, but this time, a growl layered beneath it, the sound of something far more feral than I had imagined. It raised the hairs on my arm, a warning that sent shivers crawling up my spine. And then the door began to splinter, the wood cracking under the weight of the beasts outside. My heart sank palpably as I turned to my mother, who had grown eerily still, her face a mask of shock. "Brace yourself," I whispered, clenched fists trembling. But the old man interrupted, his voice filled with a sudden burst of determination. "We must confront them. Light binds us. Darkness seeks to destroy. It's time to act." But what could we do against a force that thrived on fear? I had no strength to combat the unknown churning outside our door. As the first splinter in the wood gave way to another growl that rang in my ears like a church bell tolling doom, I held the lantern tighter, praying it would guide us, but deep down, I feared it might be too late for all of us. Would we face the darkness together, or would this lantern only illuminate our fate? And just then, the door burst open, the night flooding in, shadows sweeping across the floor. In that moment, it felt like everything was about to change, but I couldn't anticipate what awaited behind that threshold beyond our fragile barrier. The door flew open, crashing against the wall like thunder, and in that moment, chaos erupted. The lantern sputtered, barely lighting the room, shadows dancing wildly as the creatures loomed over us. Their eyes, glinting with insatiable hunger, held our gaze, and a slithering terror gripped my heart. "What do we do?" My voice cracked, echoing against the walls filled with cold, unyielding dread. "We fight." The old man's words struck a chord, igniting something primal within me, but the fear still clung like fog. I tightened my grip on the lantern, an anchor in this storm of terror. The first creature lunged forward, a grotesque form knotted with sinewy muscles and matted fur. Its growl reverberated through the cabin like an echo of every nightmare I had ever known. My instincts screamed to run, to hide, but there was nowhere to go. A sickening crunch echoed as its claws grazed the doorway, splintering wood like fragile bones. My heart raced, an animal caught in the gaze of its predator. The old man moved, shoving a cluttered chair against the door, creating a brief barrier that wouldn't hold for long. "Light! Keep the light shining!" he yelled, and a renewed sense of purpose surged through me. I raised the lantern higher, the flickering flame illuminating the horror before us. For a moment, it felt like the sun breaking through the darkest night. But then the horde descended, one after another, eyes aflame with unholy intent. I could see the fear mirrored in my mother's wide eyes, her face pale as she backed away, clutching a jagged piece of wood. "Stay close," I urged, positioning her behind me, my body shaking with adrenaline. "We're not giving in." The creatures clawed and snarled at the doorway, desperate to crash through. As the wood creaked and groaned under the weight of their relentless assault, I felt the lantern begin to flicker, the flame swaying dangerously. "No!" I took a step forward, balancing on the edge of clarity and panic. What if the light went out? What if it betrayed us? Could we survive another second in a world swallowed by darkness? With a swift movement, I aimed the lantern directly at the nearest creature, the glow illuminating its twisted visage. A moment of clarity struck. The darkness feared the light. They faltered, their monstrous forms hesitating, recoiling from the brightness as if burned. "Keep it steady," the old man shouted, pushing the chair with all his might as the door rattled against the onslaught. The creatures rebounded, their howls mixing into a cacophony that shattered the night. "Back, back," I cried, feeling a surge of forgotten strength. With every ounce of will I possessed, I held the lantern high, summoning my courage. "Get back into the shadows." The light pulsed, mirroring the rhythm of my heart, each beat a declaration of defiance against the horrors that sought to unseat us. Amidst the chaos, I caught a glimpse of my mother's face, filled with fear but also something else, hope. But hope was a dangerous thing here. Just as I thought we'd found our edge, an ear-splitting roar shattered the night, drowning us in desolation. The biggest creature, the giant that had watched, waiting, finally stepped into the light, its form so massive it blocked even the glow of the lantern. That a tide of dread washed over me as its eyes locked onto mine, a predator sizing up its prey. "Run!" I yelled, spurred by instinct, but the old man stood his ground, determination set in his features. "Gather what we have. We won't die here." And as he turned toward the shattered door to confront the beast, the lantern sputtered, flickering violently, the lighter barely catching fire. Then darkness exploded into the cabin like a long-held breath, swallowing the light and our last hopes whole. I felt my stomach drop. Was this the end? But before I could wallow in despair, I spotted a gleam in the corner of the cabin, something reflecting the lantern's dying flicker. What was that? Would it save us? Or was it another illusion cast by the dark? As I stumbled toward it, the shadows closed in, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown to oblivion. My fingers brushed against something cool and metallic as I stumbled into the corner. The world around me was pitch black, my heart racing like a trapped animal. Panic clawed at my throat, but I pushed it down. I needed to focus. I needed that glimmer of hope. Grasping at the cool object, I managed to pull it closer. My breath hitched. A knife, a small, serrated blade, glinted weakly in the dimming lantern light, held aloft by my trembling hand. "Is that?" The old man's voice drifted over the howls and snarls of the relentless beasts. "Yeah," I whispered, heart pounding. The knife felt like a lifeline, but how could I use it against things that thrived in shadows? Suddenly, a fierce claw crashed through the door, sending splinters flying, and the chair buckled under the strain. My mother's scream filled the air, sharp and piercing, a desperate plea for safety. I didn't look back. I couldn't afford the distraction. "Move!" I shouted at the old man, my voice steady despite the chaos. He responded to my urgency, bolting away from the door, and I followed him, the knife firmly clasped in my hand. "Behind the counter," he yelled, pointing to a worn-wood surface heaving with old, dust-covered jars and supplies. If we could just find a way to barricade ourselves again, perhaps we could regroup. The creatures were relentless, their guttural growls mixing with the sound of the storm outside, a full-on hurricane raging against the cabin's frail structure. We squeezed behind the counter just as the door finally gave way, crashing to the ground. I felt the ground shake under the weight of that hulking creature as it entered, casting shadows that swallowed everything in their path. It opened its maw, and a rancid breath seeped through the air, a fetid wind that curled into my lungs and made me want to retch. "Keep the light up," the old man shouted, hands trembling but resolute. I hoisted the knife, feeling its tempered steel as my only hope as the lantern flickered once more, a last-ditch effort to ward off the encroaching doom. The towering creature stepped carefully over the remnants of the door, scanning the room, slowly locking its focus on our hiding spot. My heart thudded deafeningly in my ears. It was too big, too powerful. Panic threatened to overwhelm me again, but I didn't have time for fear. The old man pulled something from his pocket, a small vial filled with a luminous liquid. "This will buy us time," he urged. "When I say go, throw the light," he continued, nodding toward the creature, which was now close enough I could see its jagged teeth glistening like sharp knives. With a fierce roar, the creature lunged forward, and I felt frozen, my feet glued to the floor while a primal instinct told me to flee. Time blurred. The entire scene stretched out like molasses. "Now!" The old man barked that I let the knife slip, grasping the vial instead, and hurled it. The moment it shattered, a brilliant flash burst forth, illuminating the room in a surreal glow, leaving shadows writhing in retreat. But just as quickly, an ear-piercing shriek erupted from the beast, sending a shock-wave of fear through my bones. The light seared its skin, forcing it back into the inky darkness. Yet within that brief moment, I saw something that rooted me to the spot, a jagged opening behind the creature. An escape route, maybe, twisting through the walls like a ragged breath amidst the chaos. "Mom, follow me," I shouted over the din, feeling the pull of survival surge through me. The old man grabbed my arm firmly, resolve solidifying in his eyes. "We can't just leave, or we'll never leave at all," I countered, urgency palpable, carving through the fear like a knife through flesh. As we darted toward the recess, the creature roared, angry and feral. It lunged again, the lantern-esque glow fighting to keep it at bay. In that charged moment, I was confronted by a choice: stay and fight for the chance to save us all, or risk everything for freedom. The darkness loomed, and I felt its cold breath on my neck. My pulse thrummed dangerously as I set my feet toward the opening, desperately following my instincts. But just as I was about to dive into the unknown, I caught a glimpse of my mother's terrified face. Her eyes screamed a question. Would this escape lead to safety or a different kind of hell? With every fiber of my being, I leaped into the shadows, the light flickering dimly behind me. What was waiting on the other side? Would the darkness consume us, or would we find a way to conquer it? As I plunged into the void, a deafening roar shattered the air, and I held my breath, praying that taking this leap wouldn't be the last choice I ever made. The darkness swallowed me whole. I felt a sudden rush of cold air, a stark contrast to the chaos behind us. The faint glow of the lantern faded, replaced by an all-consuming void that pressed against my skin. I stumbled forward, heart hammering in my chest. "Is everyone okay?" I gasped, my voice a mere whisper, barely piercing the silence that enveloped us. I couldn't see my mother or the old man. Panic surged once more, but I forced it down. "I'm here." The old man's voice crackled from the blackness, urgency teeming under his words. "We have to keep moving." I reached out, my fingers brushing against the damp, uneven wall beside me. I could feel the texture, rough and unyielding. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of mildew, but beneath that lay something else, something metallic and sharp, just waiting to catch me unaware. "Mom!" I cried out again, dread pooling in my stomach, but no answer came. The silence was suffocating. I took a step forward, careful not to lose my footing. The old man edged closer. I could hear his strained breaths mingling with the whisper of my own, a quiet reminder of our fragile predicament. A faint glimmer caught my eye, the remnants of the vial I hurled moments before glistened on the ground. Embedded in the rubble of shattered glass, thin strands of light shimmered like fireflies, pushing back small tendrils of darkness creeping in from the corners. "That's it," the old man exclaimed, moving toward it cautiously, his voice shaking more than I'd expect. "We can use this. But what if we wake it?" My voice raised, fear clawing at my throat again. Didn't he realize the danger? "We'll starve in here if we don't." His determination broke through my anxiety. I nodded, holding my breath as we stepped aside, letting the tiny beads of light guide our path forward as we advanced deeper into the unknown. The atmosphere shifted. The momentary comfort of light seemed to awaken something. A low growl rumbled through the passage, vibrating against the stone walls. My heart raced. What was behind us? What if it had followed? "Quick! This way!" I gestured toward a dimly illuminated fork in our path. My gut clenched, but I refused to hesitate. Just as we veered left, another ear-splitting roar echoed from behind, reverberating through the dark like the anger of 1,000 storms. The ground trembled beneath our feet. Whatever was hunting us was close. "We have to run." The old man's usually calm demeanor cracked as he prodded me forward, desperation etched across his features. "Now!" We sprinted through the narrow passage, feet pounding against the hard, cold surface. My heart raced as I cast a quick glance back, half expecting a maw of doom to snatch us up. The flickering remnants of light behind us sputtered chaotically how long until they extinguished. A sharp turn led us into a small chamber. Stumbling in, I skidded to a halt, breathless. The light around us bounced off jagged walls, revealing bizarre markings etched into the stone, creating a map of chaos. Runic symbols spiraled like a storm, swirling hints of what had come before. "What is this place?" I whispered, all weaving its way into my fear. "No time," the old man hissed, eyes wild. This could be a trap. But my gaze was drawn to the center of the room, a wrought iron gate, half open, beyond which lay pure, beckoning light. Was this our escape, the way forward, or merely another illusion? "Should we go?" I asked, tension thick in the air. My body tingled with the wild energy pulsing around us. Something ancient stirred just beneath my skin, but before I could hear his response, that guttural growl erupted once more, closer this time. The air shook with dread. "Run!" he shouted, already sprinting towards the glowing gate. I pushed off the ground, feet flying, but the darkness writhed around me, encroaching, clawing, as if it held secrets of its own, threatening to pull me back in. With one last glance back, fear bloomed into pure panic. Those shadows behind us were shifting, morphing into a horrible shape, hungry and unforgiving. Was this the final confrontation? Would we find safety, or would the darkness swallow us all? As I reached the gate, my body thrumming with adrenaline and despair, I paused for just a heartbeat. What stood behind us could not go unanswered. But before I could decide, the gate slammed shut behind me. What waited on the other side would change everything. Was it salvation, or something worse than death? Light flooded the air, blindingly bright and disorienting. I shielded my eyes, feeling the heat seep into my skin, a stark contrast to the chill that had wrapped around us just moments before. The room we found ourselves in was enormous, echoing with the soft whispers of long-forgotten secrets. Ancient and wide, it seemed alive, pulsing with energy that was as thrilling as it was terrifying. "What is this place?" I murmured, every word swallowed by the cavernous space. The old man stood beside me, eyes darting around like panicked rabbits. "No idea," he said, a tremor in his voice. "But it feels wrong." Suddenly, a sharp clang echoed through the chamber, snapping me to attention. A strong metal door I hadn't noticed had banged shut behind us. Panic raced in my veins. Was there another exit? Without waiting for an answer, I swung my head around, taking in every detail. Stone walls covered in strange carvings, glistening in the light. They looked almost like faces contorted in agony, frozen in eternal torment. My stomach churned. What had we stumbled into? "Stay close," the old man hissed, clutching my arm with a grip that felt almost desperate. I nodded, squeezing his hand. We moved cautiously across the floor, careful to avoid any lingering shadows that might be creeping in from the corners. The light, although brilliant, flickered ominously, and I could swear I saw something shift against the edge of my vision. A sudden sound pierced the air, soft at first, then escalating into a chorus of whispers, calling, beckoning. I looked at the old man. Confusion knotted in my chest. "Do you hear that?" He nodded, worry etching lines deeper into his face. "We mustn't listen. It's a trick, likely the last trap." But I was drawn, inexplicably intrigued by the phantom voices filling my ears. They spoke in a language I didn't understand, yet somehow resonated within me. "Follow us," they seemed to say, echoing between the stone walls. "You belong here with us. Don't." He pulled me back, but I wrenched my arm free, step by step guided toward the voices, toward a darkened alcove on the far side of the chamber. "Wait." His voice was a thread of desperation, but I pushed forward, the call of the unknown too intoxicating to resist. As I entered the alcove, shadows danced across the wall, and the light dimmed, revealing a magnificent tapestry, a scene of nightmares. The artwork depicted a great beast rising from the ashes, surrounded by despair and chaos. My breath hitched. It felt like a history of something dreadful, as if I was reading a warning. The whispers intensified, swirling around me, urging me to step closer. I hesitated, aware of how dangerous this was, but the pull was irresistible. I had to know. I reached out a trembling finger, brushing across the tapestry. Instantly, a shock of energy shot through me, reverberating across my skin. I gasped, stumbling back as visions flooded my mind. Images of people trapped, their faces twisted in agony, their pleas like a symphony of despair. "Stop it!" The old man's voice rang out, panic evident. He rushed to my side, grabbing my shoulders, grounding me. "Get away from it!" I stared up at him, the world around us spinning. "I saw them," I stammered. "We're not alone." A sudden roar exploded from deeper within the shadows beyond the alcove, the sound reverberating violently, sending vibrations through the ground beneath our feet. The beast was close. "Run!" The command broke through my stunned haze, and together we bolted back into the center of the room. But as we turned, the ground shook violently, and from the corner of my eye, I saw the tapestry ripple, as if something beneath it was awakening something ancient and powerful. Adrenaline surged through me, panic mixed with urgency. We had to escape. But where? In that moment of chaos, a hidden door opened in the wall across from us, its edges glowing with a sickly green light. "There!" I shouted, pointing. "We have to go." We sprinted toward the unknown, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been roused would soon be upon us. As I entered the doorway, I glanced back one last time, terrified yet enthralled. The tapestry pulsed, and I could see the massive beast behind it forming, its eyes shimmering with an insatiable hunger. What lay beyond could either be our salvation or our doom. What would it decide? As we crossed the threshold into the new chamber, the air felt thicker, heavier, laden with the weight of history, of all that had come before us. The sharp green light traveled in waves, guiding us forward while warning us with its unnatural glow. Behind us, the twisted creature loomed larger than life, a silhouette formed from pure nightmares, with its shadow stretching further into the depths than seemed possible. We stumbled deeper inside, hearts racing and breath quickening. The walls gleamed like viscous liquid, twisting and shifting with every passing moment. I could feel it, a palpable pulse, as if whatever force resonated here was alive and aware. "What is this place?" I gasped, catching glimpses of markings that crawled up the stone walls like black veins. The old man shook his head, eyes wild with fear and urgency. "We don't have time for questions. We have to keep moving." Ahead, the glowing green light illuminated a massive archway, framing a scene that seemed to beckon us forward. Glimpses of shifting shadows danced within, whispering of secrets and truths long hidden. I hesitated on the cusp of that opening, fear clawing at my insides. Suddenly, the earth trembled violently behind us. The air filled with the creature's guttural roar, a feral mix of wrath and hunger that rattled my bones. "Go!" the old man shouted, fear pouring from his voice. It snapped me from my stupor. We pushed through the archway and into a vast cavern, the walls intricately carved with scenes of battles and sacrifices. Shapes twisted and turned within the shadows, figures locked in combat, their expressions filled with agony, seemed to blur in the flickering light. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Warnings," he muttered, remnants of those who faced this horror before us. Then I felt something shift beside me. Glancing back, I caught sight of the creature breaking through the entry, eyes alive with an insatiable hunger, its jagged teeth glistening in the eerie glow. It was not just chasing us. It was hunting us, reveling in our fear. "Run!" I screamed, instinct taking over, and we dashed further into the cavern. The path narrowed, jagged rocks jutting out like the sharpened teeth of the beast hunting us. Each step echoed, every heartbeat mingled with the monstrous growl that faded ever closer. And then I saw it, a dim light flaring up ahead, a flicker of hope amid the shadows. My heart surged as if ignited by pure determination. I pulled my mother along, a frantic energy glowing within us both. "There!" I yelled, pointing toward it. But the old man hesitated, fear etched deep upon his face. "We have to think. If we rush, we won't make it." Ignoring him, I pressed on, feeling the pull of light tugging at me, offering fleeting promises of safety. We have to try. Just as we neared the brightness, a deafening roar erupted from behind, the ground shaking violently beneath our feet. "He's going to catch us," my mother shrieked, panic flooding her eyes. "Get to the light," I yelled. "It's our only chance." In desperate haste, we launched ourselves toward the emerging light, plunging through what felt like a barrier between worlds. In that split second, a flood of warmth enveloped us suddenly. We were out of the darkness. But not without consequence. The light was blinding. It cascaded everywhere, illuminating every corner and crevice. But it felt wrong, tinged with an artificial glow. The air hummed with tension, and as we regained our footing among figures cloaked in shrouds of light, everything shifted. The old man staggered next to me, eyes narrowing as he took in the figures slowly emerging from shadows. They were spirits, echoes of the anguished souls trapped here for eternity, their faces twisted with torment yet glimmering with a bizarre luminescence. "We must confront the darkness," one spirit cried, its voice rasping through my heart. "What do you mean?" my mother asked, pain glimmering in her eyes. A deep voice, resonant and eternal, spilled forth. "You have awakened him. Only together can you contain the fear he breeds." And just like that, fear twisted into the fabric of the room. They pointed to the shadows beyond, where the creature lingered, still hungry, still seeking what it desired, fear itself. "Faith binds you. Fight together, face your fears. Only then may you triumph," echoed the spirits. With resolve swelling in my chest, I turned to my mother, her hand trembling in mine. Our connection felt stronger than any shadow, stronger than fear itself. "We can do this. Together." The old man stepped forward, determination flaring in his eyes. "We are not mere prey anymore." As the shadows drew near, we held the light between us, a beacon of courage empowering one another. I drew a deep breath and faced the inexorable darkness head-on. "What are you scared of?" I called, my voice ringing with newfound strength. The shadow snarled, the horrific figure catapulting forward toward us. But we pushed the light toward it, illuminating the depths of its essence, revealing the truth behind the horror. "Fear!" I screamed, and as if echoing our warrior spirits, the light surged, energy swirling around me, enveloping everything, igniting each fragment of darkness with warmth and truth. The creature halted, howling as the light consumed it, burning through its form until all that remained were scraps of shadow dissolving into nothing. For a moment, silence enveloped us, thick and palpable. Then the whispers turned to sighs, fading into a soft breeze that carried a newfound light, illuminating the cavern and revealing the path ahead. We had done it. We faced our fears, fought for our survival, and emerged whole. As I turned to my mother and the old man, tears blurred my vision. "We're okay," I breathed, relief flooding through me. We were free from the shadows that had bound us. My mother pulled me into an embrace, and the old man placed his hand on my shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of every sacrifice made. "Let us go home," my mother whispered, and in that simple phrase, I knew all would be well once more. But as we stepped into the light, I felt the lingering warmth of our victory surrounding us, our unbreakable bond that would never fade. And as we walked forward, I realized we hadn't just escaped. We were changed forever, stronger, united with more than just family. We had weathered darkness together, and it would haunt us no longer. Before the light enveloped us completely, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, in the depths of the shadows, whispers still echoed, and somewhere, a darkness remained. This was our goodbye to fear. But what lay waiting beyond, we could never truly know. And remember to stay close and keep the light alive wherever you go. Before heading out, I need to remind you of something critical. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now, feed that algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and reactions to this conclusion. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of your actions.